was Sunday afternoon, and here I was, lying on the couch as I enjoyed another lazy weekend. I was on vacation from work, so that meant that every day was lazy day. I was single and I was also living alone. I didn't much care about housework, and other than lying on my couch or in my bed, the other thing I did was to hang out with my friends. But something this afternoon seemed amiss, as if poised to change my routine. Amidst a huge pack of snacks and after several clicks of the remote, looking for a TV program that could entertain me, I heard the doorbell ring. Painstakingly, I got up from the sofa, walked slowly to the door, spotted a visitor through the tiny magic eye, and only then said something. It was my neighbor and friend, Bob. Bob seemed to be in a hurry, and wanted me to do something he needed help with. He'd asked me to watch over his house while he was away. Bob said he had personal matters to tend to and was going to be away for a few days. As a good friend of his, I didn't think twice about it, and agreed to do that favor for him. He thanked me and handed over a copy of the house key, so that I could go into his yard and feed the dogs once per day. Bob said goodbye to me, got into his car, and drove off at an alarmingly fast speed. I found my friend's behavior strange. Bob was always in a good mood, but he was tense when he left, and he had a worried look on his face. I suspected that something could be wrong, but I didn't have enough time to question Bob about that. His strange and unexpected visit had lasted little more than a minute, after all. In the coming days, I did as Bob had asked of me. I went to his property to feed the dogs every day, always making sure to also check that his house was safe. But one of those days, something caught my attention. The atmosphere in his house seemed different. I felt a huge discomfort when I stepped into his backyard to feed his dogs, which was a feeling I'd never noticed the other times I was there. I didn't know what it was, but I felt uncomfortable. Yet, even after that day, I always headed to his house to feed his canine companions. One night, before going to bed, I did as I'd done the previous nights. From my bedroom window, I took one last look over Bob's house to make sure everything was in order, but this time I was startled by something. I saw what appeared to be a person looking out the living room window. Confused, I continued to stare at the strange figure, which a few seconds later disappeared. I continued to watch over, but I was beginning to doubt if I'd really seen something. After all, there wasn't supposed to be anyone in the house. That is, until something else spooked me again. This time, I was sure that it wasn't just my imagination playing tricks on me. But it wasn't the same shadow I'd seen before that now seemed to be there, haunting me. It was the lights in Bob's house, which were repeatedly turning on and off. Living room, kitchen, bedrooms, every hour it was a different room, which confused me even more. All this going on and off didn't last long, and soon the house was dark again. I picked up my phone and tried to call Bob, but his number appeared to be out of range. I then called his house's landline, not knowing if it would work or not. Bob's house phone rang, once, twice, 3, 4 times, and only after the 5th ring did someone answer. But whoever was there and answered the phone didn't say anything. I could hear only my heavy breathing. Seconds later, the call was dropped. I went back to watching Bob's house. I was scared, but I wanted to know what was going on. A few minutes later, that same shape appeared again in the living room window, but now I was sure that it was a person. A woman, to be more precise. That strange woman seemed to know that I was looking at her because, with her hands, she gestured and made movements, as if she was calling out to me. Even though I was astonished, I couldn't stop staring at the strange lady until she stopped waving her hands. And seemingly, in a fit of rage, she started screaming and slamming her hands violently against the window. I was so terrified that I tripped and fell backward over the floor. Still splayed on it, I kept hearing screams and sounds the woman was making as she kept pounding against the window. My God, what is happening? I thought. A short time later, the noises ceased, and the night fell silent again. I continued to lie on the floor, not having the courage to get up and look in the direction of Bob's house again. But the worst fright was yet to come. I began to hear sounds in the living room of my own house, then footsteps on the stairs leading up to my bedroom, exactly where I was. Terrified, I shrank in a corner of my room, and listened to the sounds of footsteps getting closer and closer, until a woman appeared in the doorway, and it was the same woman I'd seen in the living room window of Bob's house. She was naked, crying a lot, and had many bruises all over her body. As I saw that terrifyingly looking woman approaching me, I became desperate, and fainted. When I came back to it, the sun was already shining through the windows. Still confused and frightened by what I'd witnessed last night, I got up, and went to my bedroom window, and from there I could see the street full of people, and with lots of police and fire trucks in front of Bob's house. I felt even more confused. News broadcasted that the police, through a report from a neighbor who heard desperate cries of a woman, had found bodies of 3 women in the back of Bob's house. He had cruelly murdered all 3 of them. Bob was arrested a few days later in another town, where he confessed the murders. I was surprised by Bob's cruelty, for I'd never expected that from someone who had always been a good friend of mine. That day, after waking up from my moment of fright, and seeing all the commotion in the street, I also noticed something that was not only on the wall of my room, but also in the other rooms of my house. It was a single sentence, written in blood. "Help me."